Do you want to know how much ACCA qualified accountant make in the United Kingdom? Well, watch this video and you'll find out, as well as I'll tell you how much I make as ACCA qualified accountant. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Agnes with another professional series today. I just want to apologize quickly for my voice. I know it sounds a little bit off just because I've only just got over terrible cold, but let's not talk about this too much. I'm recovering. So the topic that I wanted to do today was a continuation of the video that I did last week, which talked about where to find a job as an accountant, and I pointed to a few places where you could start off your search. But today I wanted to do a second video where I talk about the actual salary or the scope of the salary that you can expect once you qualify as a CCA accountant. So just to give you a little bit of a backstory, I am myself qualified accountant, and if you would like to know the journey that I went on qualifying as a CCA accountant, I would recommend you watch the video here. And if you yourself are a CCA accountant, or maybe if you are studying towards your ACCA qualification, and by the way, this would be also relevant to ACCA or CIMA qualification because they are equally well recognized in the United Kingdom, I would strongly recommend you watching this video because it could be actually very motivational to hear how much you can actually make as a CCA accountant. An accountancy, or being an accountant, you can get into without having a college degree or university degree. So you can just go on and do your ACCA, and that would be sufficient enough to get really high up in the company and earn really good salary. So to answer your question as to how much ACCA qualified accountant earns in the United Kingdom is actually a very difficult task because you can do so many things as ACCA qualified. Your salary will vary greatly depending on the position you're looking for. So if you're a startup, which means you've only just qualified, and obviously being qualified you would have had done 36 months of practical experience, so you've already got 3 years of experience and your qualification. Now with this, you're probably looking at the startup role in a practice or industry, so it also depends whether you work in the practice or industry or public sector. So depending on where you start off, depending on what is already your experience, that will determine a lot in terms of how much you're going to earn. So the salary of ACCA accountant would have been much higher to those that only just starting up in the accounts and have got not much experience and not have any qualification. I'll be using read.co.uk mainly for the comparison reason, because Read does have quite a broad range of jobs that you can find through them, and I did try comparing the jobs from one website to the other and I found that they're very similar, so I'll be using Read mainly for my research. A few things that I want to mention is that your salary will depend on quite a few factors. They will depend on the location, so in London's jobs tend to pay higher, or like in the big cities like Manchester or Birmingham, you're probably looking for a higher salary to what you're looking at in the smaller cities. Years of experience that you have, type of the role that you're applying for, your negotiation skills, the size of the company that you're going into, and benefits offered with the job. I have sat down yesterday and with my laptop I went over a lot of different jobs. I've broken down into a practice and industry jobs. So obviously this will not include all of the possible jobs that accountants do, but it will give you a rough idea of how much accountants in the certain positions make. So as I mentioned, we're gonna have a practice and we're gonna have industry, if I can spell, and we're gonna have an industry. Now, the practice can be obviously anything from small little accounting practice, which only helps small little businesses to keep on top of their accounts, or we can talk about Big Four. Now Big Four, obviously, which you go Ernst & Young's, Deloitte, KPMG, PricewaterhouseCoopers. These accounting practices used to be known as accounting practices. At the moment, they are more of a professional services companies because they provide not just accounting services, but a lot of other services that are associated with running a big company. So from audit to business consultation to tax consultation to also accounting. So you're gonna have a lot of various roles within those Big Four firms. And the next one after that is BDO, but we're gonna mainly focus on those four, and also small practices. So in a small practice, you're gonna probably start off junior accountant, where you just help out with sorting out the expenses, putting them on the system, kind of a data entry. Once you qualify, you can start off practice accountant. And because you work in a practice, your salary will be much lower to what you start off when you're working for the industry. This is one of the things that probably deters a lot of people from starting in the practice. However, it's a really good startup road to go into practice because it kind of shows the basics of how the accountancy works. I personally regret not ever going into practice because I think when you're in the practice, you have the best feel of what the accounting's like. And yes, you might be working a little bit longer hours on the month ends and you might be kind of bogged down in all the little receipts and everything. But I really think that it gives you very good understanding and solid foundation to switch over later to an industry where you can then step up your salary significantly. So if you start off a practice and then move off to the industry, it is such an advantageous position for you because you already got so much knowledge behind you. Whereas if you're industry, switching back into practice is something that is extremely difficult. And trust me, I have tried that. I've actually, before I found the job that I've just found now, because next month I am moving into a new role, I have tried switching into a practice because I thought I really want to get that practice experience. But because I have got no practice experience, I'm treated like a newbie. Just because I've got ACCA qualification, or maybe because I've got ACCA qualification, they think that I'm far into accounting to be able to switch into practice. So yes, I got a lot of transferable skills and I am doing accountancy because I am ACCA qualified and I've been working as an accountant for such a long time. From the practice point of view, I haven't got enough experience to move on to the practice. So it's good to start off a practice. If you ever wondered where to start your job at first, I would really strongly recommend for you to go into the practice. And if you can get into one of the big four, then you set off at the very right foot. So let's go back to the salaries. For the practice accountant, you're expecting anything from 25 to even a 50K mark. That is a big difference and big range in the brackets, because if you're in a small practice which is not very big and serves only small businesses, then you can't really expect your salary being very high. However, you can move up the role quite quickly, and from practice accountant, you can then move on to the senior accountant. And your starting salary could be anything between 30 to 60K. May not look like a big step up, but if you think about it, after a year working as a practice accountant, if you move to senior accountant, from 25 to 35 is a 5K increase. Or if you already had 50K and you move into 60K, that's a 10K increase. Again, that will very highly depend on the size of the company that you're working at. Then from senior practice accountant, you can move on to the practice manager, where you can expect the salary between 50 to 70K. Now, if you're in a practice and you're a practice manager, you're already on a quite responsible and high-end role, but that's not to say that you cannot grow any higher. You can always move up into being a partner. And partner can earn anything from 70K plus, and the scope is really, really big here. So depending on how big the practice you're working at, and again, depending on the size of the company, it really depends, because what you're going to do, you're going to have a portfolio of clients, and you're also going to have to build the portfolio. You're going to have to grow the company, reach out for new customers. So if you don't do that, you can always step back, because if the partner doesn't do a good enough job, they're going to be pushed back into being a practice manager. However, we're talking about small practices here. Being a partner in the Big Four can earn you anything between 640 to 880K. Now, these are money. Before you become a partner in the Big Four, you would be working there years. I mean, you're probably thinking from 10 to 15 years minimum before you can reach to the partner stage. And that is if you had already great experience in leadership, on your expertise will be really out there, and you would have to proven that you're really good at what you do and that you have excellent skills to be making the company grow even further. So that was a practice. So if you've worked enough in a practice and you think you can do it yourself, you can open your own practice. You can hire a team of people, you can hire partners, and you can work for yourself. Then obviously the scope is so great because it's your own business. I can't tell you how much you're going to earn, but it's probably much more to what you can earn in the Big Four if you really exceed at running and scaling up your business. But again, being ACCA qualified, as soon as you qualify, unless you had 2 years experience in the practice, you would not be able to open your own practice. You would have to hire a partner that is ACCA qualified, that has got 2 years experience to be able to run a practice with on a 50-50% share basis. So let's move on to industry. So if you work in the industry, and as I mentioned before, it is really hard to switch back to the practice. So start of a practice, go into industry, or start of the industry and stay there, because it's going to be really hard to move back into practice. However, the scope for growth and also the scope for salary can go really, really high. Once you qualify, you're probably going to be anything from MA to FA to FC even, like I'm an FC. So these two would probably be like a startup role, and the starting salary of a management accountant or financial accountant would be anything from 45k to about 60k, and this is the same for financial accountant. I mean, yes, you can earn more, but this is the range that I found that Reed offers to people on their website. So I'm not saying you cannot get more than that. You can also get less than that, because it will again depend on the location that you're in. But this is kind of an average of the salary that pays for management accounting role or financial accounting role. You can then step up your role and become financial controller. Now, financial controller would usually have a team of people working under them. I am a financial controller and I haven't got people working under me, just because I work for such a small little company that I do everything in the company. So I really control the company, although I haven't got a team working for me. So that's not to say that if you're a financial controller, you're going to have to manage a big team. You would have to probably got those managerial skills under your belt. I forgot also you could be financial manager, which is probably somewhere in between financial accountant and financial controller. If you're a financial manager, your scope is about 40 to 70k. It really does depend on how much you're growing your career. A financial controller job would usually pay from 40 to 80k. So there is a scope for larger salary here. But again, it depends on how much experience you got, whether you've been managing the team and how big of a team you got to manage now, and how big the company is really. Now, the jobs in between, or the roles in between of it, could also be job of an internal auditor. Now, what internal auditor does, they, as opposed to auditing the whole company, they are auditing the processes and procedures that are within the company to make sure that the company follows everything that they have to follow, and they are prepared for the audit when the audit comes in. So the internal auditor salary could be anything between 37 to 60k. Now, bear in mind that if you are ACCA qualified and you want to become an internal auditor, most likely you're going to have to be geared up to do audit. So within the ACCA, you can choose AAA, which is Advanced Audit Paper. And if you choose this paper and you pass it successfully, then you can be an auditor in the UK. What you can also do before going higher than that, corporate tax consultant. And this job is really good actually, because you're ensuring that the company can take the best advantage and pay the taxes in a way that they pay as little as possible. And that can save a lot of money in the company. So if you're really good at what you do and you get a job of corporate tax consulting, which usually is done in a very, very large organization, which pay a lot of taxes, so they're trying to save themselves some money on paying lesser taxes. I'm not saying avoid, pay less. That job can pay you anything between 80 to 120k. And that's a very good salary. But again, you will be making the savings of that or more for the company so that they can hire you. Now, the step up from that, you would have to experience those before you move further, obviously, because you can't just jump from being ACCA accountant to be a financial director or CFO or even CEO of a company, because you would have to have an expertise of all of this before you do this. Okay, so you would have already had probably about 5 to 10 years of experience doing all those roles before you become financial director, and another 5 before you become CFO, and another 5 before you become CEO. Just want to mention that not many accountants actually get into the position of FD or CFO or CEO, and FD can earn anything between 60 to about 150k. So once you get to the stage of financial director, CFO or CEO, there will be a lot of benefits that come with your job. And that's not to say that you wouldn't get the benefits when you're in a lower position, but you'll get even more incentivized when you're a financial director and higher. So with being a financial director, what the company would also offer you on top of, say, insurance, so you might get health insurance for yourself and the family, you might get bonus, you might get death in service. What you can also get on top of it as a financial director is, for example, car allowance. That's not to say you're not going to get it when you're on a lower position, but the higher you get in a company, the more benefits you're going to get. So from car allowance, you can also have like higher bonus than what you would have had being on a lower position. You can also have a retention scheme and shares. Now, if you get shares in a company, you're obviously going to want to work really, really hard to make the company succeed. And you wouldn't be in the position to get those if you are working as a financial controller or anyone on the lower position, because you wouldn't have that deciding power that FD, CFO and CEO have. So moving back onto the salary, if you're a CFO, your salary can begin with 90k all the way to about 300k. This is how much I saw CFO jobs pay at the beginning. Also, being on a high position would give you, in addition, more holidays. So if you get more holiday allowance, that means you can, spend more time with family and travel the world more if you wanted to. You've got enough money to travel the world. Now you can go and spend it because you got lots of time off, right? And CEOs jobs that I've seen pay anything from 200k plus. Now, the difficulties with looking for the salaries for the very high-end jobs is that the job spec displays that salary is negotiable, or salary is not disclosed at all, or it says competitive salary. So quite often when it comes to really high-end jobs, they wouldn't even display the salary because the candidate would expect the salary to be high, and they want to first get to feel who you are, what can you offer to the company before they even tell you how much the job pays. So I hope you've noticed that the more experience you have, the more knowledge you gain, and the more skills you get, and the more you build up your career, the more money you can earn. And this is anywhere you go, whether you're a qualified accountant or whether you're a doctor or whether you're a plumber. What you want to remember or ensure that you do in order to be able to move from the low-paid jobs to the high-end jobs is that you got to move. You have to be willing to challenge yourself. You have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to go out there and look for a better job. And I wouldn't recommend anyone staying in the role more than 1 to 3 years. This is kind of the sweet spot where you're not looking like you're moving too quick in the jobs, and also you're not looking at you staying in one job too long. Yes, it may appear as you're loyal, but it also can give indication that you're just too comfortable staying in the role that is kind of in your comfort zone. If you are perceived as a person that is willing to move often and that is not scared to stretch themselves to a limit and also step outside the comfort zone, if you are in one role for a while, you're most likely not going to get pay increase unless you're going to tell them I'm moving. Maybe then they're going to be incentivized to give you a little bit of a step in the money, but it's not very often that it happens that your boss is going to come to you every year and say, oh, here's your 10% bonus, or here's your 10% increase. Not often companies give bonus or incentivize people to stay by giving them more money, but if you're going to tell them, I know what's the market rate, I know I'm worth more, and if I'm not gonna get more money here, I'm not scared to go and move forward, then maybe they're gonna move you up the role or even give you more money. So until you ask, nobody's going to give it to you. So don't be scared to ask, and also don't be scared to move from one job to the other. It is a good thing to do. Now, just so you know, I'm just currently working my notice period, and in June I'm starting the new role. So yes, I have been stuck in my previous role for 5 years. This is mainly due to the fact that I have been studying for a very long time, and I've only managed to qualify in 2019. So I've gained my qualifications 2 years ago, and within that 2 years we have been in a pandemic. So for a year I couldn't move, but just before the pandemic I was already trying to look for a new job, and then I decided that probably it wasn't the best time to move. So I waited up until 3 months ago, and 3 months ago, as soon as I started looking for a job, a new opportunity came my way, and I grabbed it as soon as I could, because I know it is important to move from job to job, and I really want to build up my career now so that going forward I have all this expertise under my belt, so that I can either build up my own business or I can move up the road. Oh, by the way, I was going to tell you how much I earn. So I am currently at the financial controller position, which is the brackets that I'm under. Now, because of the non-disclosure, I cannot exactly tell you how much I'm earning, but I can tell you I am closer to this side than I am to this side. So this is around the region that I'm earning, and I am actually going to a financial accountant role, which is a step down role, but as you can see, the salary is kind of similar. I am going to get paid more to what I'm getting paid now, and it's going to be somewhere in the middle here. Again, because of the non-disclosure, I'm not too sure whether I am actually able to disclose this information to you, but I am somewhere in between here. So is this a high salary? It is a high salary, I believe, and I am quite happy that within being 2 years after having my ACCA, I am already at this position. And I know the more I push forward, the more experience I gain, the more skills I learn, the more I move up, the more I'm gonna earn. And yes, it is not as much about the money, but let's not lie, you know, we all do this not because we want to earn less, but because we want to move up, right? So I hope you guys found this video useful and that you have found this informative enough. If you have any questions, as I said, all this was based on my own research. I'm pretty sure some of you will come up saying, oh, what about this role? What about that role? I would direct you into read.co.uk, because this is where all this information is based from. And if you like this video, I would love you to give me a thumbs up. If you are interested in any other professional kind of questions, then please let me know in the comment below. And I hope you can subscribe to my channel if you like videos like that. Apologies for the quality of my voice today. I am still recovering from the cold. And I hope you guys are staying safe and warm in the weather like that. It is really difficult, I understand, but just keep yourself warm, because this is what I've not done, and this is why I'm not now struggling with my voice, because I just fell ill. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next. Bye!